Hey, welcome back to Wild Mind, Rooted Heart. I'm Christine, and this is the space for the overthinkers, the deep feelers, and the people trying to understand themselves without completely exhausting their nervous systems. And if these conversations have been landing for you, if you find yourself thinking a little differently or feeling a little more seen, consider following the podcast wherever you listen. I'm building something here for the people who live in the questions, who feel things deeply, and aren't afraid to go there. There's always a seat for you. Now, let's talk about the weird parts of being human. Today, we're talking about something I think gets misunderstood a lot: what healing actually looks like. Not the curated version, not the aesthetic version, but the real lived experience of it. Because if you've ever felt like you're doing the work, you're becoming more aware, you're trying to grow, but it still feels messy, emotional, or confusing sometimes, you're not doing it wrong. You're probably just doing it honestly. I remember at one point thinking that healing would feel like this clear upward path. Like once I understood myself, everything would just settle. But what actually happened is very different. I became more aware, more honest with myself, more in tune with my patterns. And instead of everything getting easier right away, it felt like I was noticing everything more, which was not always comfortable. And healing isn't about becoming a perfect, calm, unbothered version of yourself. It's about becoming aware, and awareness can feel intense at first because now you see things that you used to just move past. You feel things you used to avoid, and you recognize patterns you didn't notice before. And that goes for within yourself, but also people in the world around you. For me, I definitely was already someone who was very self-aware, but I didn't know how to utilize that awareness. I kind of used it to be extremely self-critical. I used it to just judge and observe the world around me in a way that I found wasn't natural for how I operate. And it wasn't really how I wanted to continue living my life. And I've realized as I've gone through this journey of changing my inner monologue has like been one of the biggest, most pivotal moments or things that I've done. Learning to speak, think, act more kind to myself has now, years later, I always reference it with how old my cat is, or how long I've had her, I should say. It'll be 5 years in November that I've had her. So I've been rewiring how I talk to myself for 5 years because I chose, like some people do with parenting children, I did it with my cat. I was noticing my initial reaction and response to things that she was doing by her just being a cat. It's things that they do, right? Like jumping on the counter, or I don't know, just she's very clingy, and she was very much so, especially when I first got her. And I'm someone who, what? I need space. I like some space. But I like also loved it. And I wanted to make sure that she felt loved and welcomed and knew that like no matter what, I was going to love her and just be the best mom that I can be to her. So that also includes how I talk and respond to her. And it helped me shift my awareness to, instead of I'm just this piece of shit person or I'm this horrible whatever, the list can go on and on. But instead of saying and fueling all of those things, I was like, actually, let's see how it feels to be kinder to her. And a lot of times when I was mad or snapping, and it wasn't even mad, if you knew me back in the day, it was nothing like that, okay? But I started little by little with her. And it's just interesting because looking even right now in this moment, reflecting back for a minute, I'm recognizing something that I'm seeing even more so now today in people around in my environment and just people all around that tend to just criticize everything and everyone around them. And I believe it's to avoid looking at themselves, right? It's easier to look outside. It's so hard to sit there and sit with yourself, look at yourself, figure out, where did this come from? Is this something I want to keep? Is this something I want to let go of? Is this how I would want to be talked to by another person? Because that's kind of where I'm at now as well. with another layer of how I'm talking to myself and how I react. And I'm being more aware of the changes that I've made. Like it's just it's a really cool thing. And I'm kind of proud of myself for it. The other day, I was a little garden. I was driving and I went in my back seat and I was planning for where I was going. And I was like, okay, I had stopped at the gas station. I had my wallet and my keys in my hand. And I was like, all right, put my wallet in my bag because I'm going to need to bring that with me. My keys, I've set them in there too because I was like, I need to remember to bring those with me when I go. And then I was standing there and I just was looking around and I'm like, wait, what am I forgetting to go back to the front seat? Because I was in the back seat to start my car. And I was like, babe, you need those keys there. Like to myself, like I said that out loud because I'm also allowing myself to talk out loud, right? Like if you have an overactive mind, let yourself talk out loud. You can feel crazy, like think you're nuts. It's fine. You're not. We all operate differently. And if you're an external processor, allow yourself to speak. If you don't know if you are, play around with it. I didn't know how much of an external processor I am. Human design helped me with that. Learning about soundboarding as a mental projector, especially, has just been very affirming and it's supported me on my journey. So, yeah, I was like, babe, we need those. And I was like, oh, how cute. Like, I would say that now in a relationship to somebody versus like just getting annoyed or whatever, you know? And I just thought it was cute. And it was a good moment of me being like, oh, wow, I've really come such a long way. Like, I really am on the journey and I really am embodying all of the things I've been wanting to do, looking at, working towards, doing the work, right? Like, for yourself, you may not always see it. You may not recognize it, but that's also how you can shift your awareness and using it to look at yourself from a place of love versus a place of criticism. Understanding and accepting that perfectionism is a made up thing. There's no such thing as perfect. Every single person, being, nature, art, everything in life that's beautiful, you can use the word perfect, but society's fueling of what that means is different. But everything is beautiful. We are all beautiful in our own way. The way you think, the way you operate, the way that only you could come up with something as unique or innovative or funny or creative, helpful, or like you just thought of that piece that everyone else was sitting there confused about, right? We all have different gifts and strengths. And that's another part of the healing journey is learning to see those things and recognize those things within yourself that maybe you weren't always able to before. So my example probably too is I wasn't able to express myself or explore what I wanted anything about. Like to me, I was in such survival for so long, pretty much all of my life. And I'm still like it's still an active thing I have to work on not falling back into. I remember in therapy, I used to tell her, I always have these dreams and this feeling, this like when certain things get triggered or something happens, or try to remind myself that like I can slow down and I can take a break. Like someone had mentioned to me recently at my Reiki attunement, and they were like, you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. Not the first time I've heard that by an energy healer by any means. But they're like, what would happen if you put the bag down for a little bit? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, how do I keep going? How do I not fall behind even more than I feel like I already am? I don't know. It just feels like I wouldn't know how to breathe. But so I used to have this feeling in therapy where like if certain things were triggered, I remember saying, it's just this, I keep feeling like I'm going to fall into this quicksand and I don't know where it is. That's kind of how now I'm thinking maybe that's a thing for how CPTSD works. If you're able to be aware of that and what a trigger feels like in your body, and then how to allow yourself to move through it. Which tool are you going to need? Which one works for this type of feeling? Like what comes up? It's a lot of work, but it's so important and it's so helpful and supportive of yourself because we can't always rely on another person to help ground you and regulate you. I do believe we do need other people. I'm not saying like you have to do this all on your own, coming from a hyper independent girly who's also trying to learn to receive and support and learn how to build relationships and start relationships, friendship. Like that's just, when I say relationships, I don't just mean romantic. I mean friendships, family, romantic, obviously, with your pet, with nature, with yourself. And all of these things work together. I remember I just, for years, I was like, it's just this quicksand. I feel like I'm going to keep falling into this quicksand of a way of a darkness. Sometimes I would fall like into like a darkness in the quicksand. I would just feel like I can't get out, like I'm fighting for my life and like no one is around, nobody. And that's how I felt all of my life. And I know that that is still a valid feeling, but I know that if I have people that I could call, could they necessarily support me in the way that I need right now? No, but I still am lucky enough to have people to call and be like, I just need to not be alone for a second, or I need you talk to me, distract me from my mind because I've spent too much time up here, or I need help getting pulled out of my own quicksand, right? And so I learned that a big part of what the quicksand was what, is my relationship, is my parental relationships. Because it's not just my mom and my dad, it's like stepdad, it's other figures that I had in my life that were adults that were harmful. And that just stems back. It's a big web. But I did realize like one of the biggest like quicksand things that I would fall into, it's like quicksand or like a grenade, like you're walking, like it's just stuff like that. Like it's just you don't know where it is and you're like scared to move. And I think that's also what happens when I get into a freeze state is I'm like, wait, I've been here before, or this feels familiar, or this, whatever it is. And I remind myself that, okay, it's okay. We can take a minute to breathe. If you can focus on your breath, you can get through anything. I saw that quote. I've learned this. I thought it was your breath. Like, what? I remember at first, I was first looking into somatic work and everything. And I did a breath work and I was like, this isn't doing anything. If you are someone who is chronically stressed and you have high cortisol and stuff, when you first start these things, if you don't feel something immediately, try it again. Do it a few times. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say I sometimes would sit there for an hour, 2 hours and do all different sorts of things to try to get it to work. When I was first doing like learning and looking into nervous system regulation and I was on YouTube, just trying to figure out and see and find what works for me and my system because again, we are all different. I actually do have a guide on nervous system regulation based on your human design type that's available, but yeah, we are all very different and you have to remain with an open mind. And also, just because something didn't work at one point and you're like in a few years, months, weeks, whatever later, you could be in a different state and you could be able to receive it differently. For a simple example, working with young children, trying to get them to try new foods. And they're like, I tried that before. I didn't like it. And I will say, today is a new day. You could like it today and who knows? So why not just take a little bite and try it? And 9 times out of 10, I can get the kid to try a new food. And it's 50-50 whether they like it or not, but they tried it and it's not scary because some of them look like they're terrified of their food. But healing feels messy. I've had moments and times where I feel absolutely on top of the world. I'm like, everything's working out. Everything's going to be okay. Like, yes, I'm on the way. And then boom, you hit another stall. Boom, you hit a low. Boom, you hit whatever. Like whatever still needs to come out and be worked out through your body as it continues feeling safe. As you continue to build the safety with your body and with your nervous system, things will continue to come up. That's why sometimes you're like, if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm just relaxed. Why is my mind thinking about this stuff? Because your body is feeling calm enough or safe enough to process something. So we don't always need to hold on to those things. So that's another part of like where breath is important and can be helpful. It, when those things come up, just breathe through it and kind of like let it do its thing or like try to let it flow out. That's what I do. Actually, a friend of mine shared this that she does with me when we were at my old job one day. And she's like, if I notice something coming up that I know is no longer serving me or I'm actively trying to let go of, I will like pause. She takes a breath and says, I let go of this thought. I let go of this feeling. I let go of this because it no longer serves me. And saying those things out loud, again, like you can feel nuts. You don't have to scream it from the rooftops. You can say it very quietly to yourself. Thinking it does work too, but I've learned and I feel like there is something to hearing yourself speak. Because I don't think a lot of us even listen to ourselves enough either. I learned that too. Like, I wasn't listening to myself. I would say things that give people like great advice, this, that, and the third. Like, but I wasn't listening to receive it myself. And now that I have and I listen to myself more, I also am more mindful of what I say and how I talk to myself and how I respond to other people. And I'm learning to find and create beauty in the messiness that is healing. And everybody's journey is different too. You know, healing can look like setting boundaries and feeling guilty afterward. I definitely fought with that for like at least a year, like actively. I still do sometimes. It can be recognizing a pattern and feeling guilty afterward. Because a lot of us, if you're in it's a shame, it's a fear, shame, grieving loop that we just get into. It can be needing more rest than you used to. I've gone in waves of this. I'll go in lulls where I need like more sleep than normal. I remember when I first got out of my home when I was younger, all I wanted to do was sleep. All I could do was sleep. And that's because I was in such a state of high alert, high awareness, just not ever feeling safe to shut down and actually sleep. So now I just support that. I'm like, oh, something must have happened. Because again, if you do have CPTSD, you may not always know what is triggering you specifically, but I find it may not always be necessary. It's just to learn to be like, oh, wait, I'm triggered by something. And then once you calm your body down enough and do the things that you need to do that you know are supportive, because you can't always just trust what it wants to do because it's going to want to escape. And that's where addiction ties in and like all these other things. But if you can sit with the uncomfortability, if you can just keep it going and support yourself and surround yourself in your life, whether you have to go on a period of where you don't really have much of a support system. That's where online communities are great. I'm working on growing mine and growing this community because I've always been someone who has a very eclectic friend group. Like, I've never been someone involved in like, I'm friends with like this whole group of people. I'll be friendly with people and I know people, but I've always just been like, I have this friend for that, like this person for this person for that. This, like, maybe that's because I didn't have any needs met growing up. And subconsciously, I just started to like look for certain things. But that's the amazing thing about this too, is that there's going to be so many different types of people from all walks of life that you can learn from. You don't have to be someone who's gone through hell and also to take advice or to learn a lesson from someone else that maybe hasn't had it as bad. They may have a different perspective than you do because of the different underlying stories. You'll definitely outgrow people in our environments. I find I do that very often. And again, it's all like anyone I've ever had in my life, like friendships, even relationships. Like, I have no ill will. There's still love. It's just sometimes life doesn't support you in this state or time right now. I do wish I could reconnect with some people, but I don't know how to go about that also. That's a story for another time. Being neurodivergent, having sensitivity to rejection, which ties into that along with trauma. It's just a whole thing. And I'm like, whatever's meant to be will be. Like, I'm here. I love everyone. You'll definitely outgrow people and environments, and that's just part of the journey. So also learning to let go can be helpful. And that's, again, going to look different for everybody. And knowing that not everything is personal either. Sometimes things have just ran their course. And that could be with family. That could be with your best friends. That could be with anyone. And then a big one is feeling emotions more deeply instead of numbing them. That one's hard. And that one is where in my other episode, I talked about my relationship with cannabis a little bit and microdosing. Those helped me feel my feelings without getting overwhelmed, especially microdosing, because it calms the amygdala in your brain. Do not do this again. Like, do your own research. There are risks as with everything. But for me personally, I researched, I did things, and I was like, I'm going to try it. And it worked for me. It helped me navigate and access certain parts of like memories and traumas and things. And then also just consistently putting myself out there. Like I fully do believe in exposure therapy. I am not going to exaggerate when I say with certain things that it feels silly to admit, but certain situations and certain things, my body, I felt like I was under attack or I was going to not survive, but I did. And I do. And I will. And so will you. And that'll be another episode, I think, because I've had a lot of people that I've talked to recently be confused or have this just how do you deal with death? Like how, like I've lost a lot of people. So I've gone through this in the waves and trying to be like, why would this happen? And this, but things happen. We don't need to know. As someone who loves to know the why, there's not always a why. Things happen. There are things in play that are greater than we can even consciously be aware of. But it is important to be able to feel your feelings without numbing them. That's where cannabis helps me because I know if I feel certain things too much, I use it just to bring, again, the threshold down a little bit. It helps my nervous system to bring it down so that I can rationally look at what's coming up, look at what's happening, look at maybe why or how could I work through this? How can I help this not happen again, depending on what the situation is. I just sit there and I explore it and I examine it. That's also what's like helpful with having an outside person, whether it is a friend or a coach or a guide or a therapist, like just a supportive being. It's good to have someone to go talk to and sometimes either get it out of you. So I go to the trees, but sometimes it is helpful to talk to another person that just wants what's best for you unselfishly. That's important. It's important to learn to feel your feelings. And again, breathe through it. If it feels like you cannot survive, close your eyes and just hands on your belly and just breathe. Just breathe. I have that tattooed on me and it's just so funny because looking back, I used to struggle with remembering like to breathe. Because I'm so like fixated on everything else, making sure that I'm gonna survive and everything's okay. And then I'm like, oh right, we still have to I still have to live. Um, but yeah. Healing really said, I'm gonna give you awareness first and peace later. And I was like, wait, I thought those came together. But they don't. You have to build the bridge to connect them. There's often a phase where you're aware of your patterns, but you haven't fully changed them yet. And that space can feel frustrating because now you see it, but you're still learning how to respond differently. And that's not failure, that's practice. And the more that you put these things to practice, the more that they will solidify within you and then become a natural habit. It'll become your new way of being. Like the other day when I was like, you know what, babe? Like we need those keys to drive, silly. Like just you'll recognize it and you'll be like, wow, yay me. Pat yourself on the back. Like we tell the kids, kiss your brain, give yourself some props, snaps, whatever. Like celebrate you and celebrate the little wins. And that'll make the journey feel a little bit better. Not as, deep in the trenches as you will be sometimes. And as you know, I love some reflection questions. So here is something to sit with. Where in your life are you becoming more aware? Even if it doesn't feel like progress yet. What patterns are you noticing that you didn't see before? That awareness matters more than you think. And don't forget, if this space has been resonating with you, you can follow or subscribe wherever you are listening or watching. I'm really glad you're a part of it. And as always, thank you for spending this little pocket of time with me. Take what resonated and let it settle. Let what landed sink in. And anything that didn't quite fit can just rest nearby for now. Sometimes healing isn't about getting it right. It's about staying present while you figure it out. Until next time, take care of your mind and stay rooted in your heart.